to this video, which is all about a pose that requires some back bending. It will still require core strength because in this upper body strength series, all the videos have been core, working, getting that support. But we still need to have the core engaged because of the back bending aspect. We need to be able to support the lower back. And this pose is called Camatkarasana in the Sanskrit. And it translates, some people call it wild thing, some people call it dancer's bridge. I like all the names. I think dancer's bridge describes it a bit more accurately, and I'll talk to you about that as we go through. So it's an intermediate level practice. So we're going to be opening up the front of the body, but still being mindful about the core, being engaged when we get into the pose. And it's also got definitely got elements of side plank in it because you're just on one hand when you're doing it. What else can I tell you? It's quite similar as well to the pose that we did in the last video, which was fallen triangle, in the sense that when you get into it, you're lifting up and everything. It's a really expressive, expansive pose and shape that you come into. So you will need, even though it's an intermediate practice, you will need a couple of bricks and maybe a blanket, depending on how firm your bricks are. So the first thing that we're going to do, and I would probably advise you to start with the brick on its lowest level. We're going to do some passive, like yin style back bend, like chest openers, but also kind of softening and starting to break down any resistance and tightness in the spine. So you're going to come back and you're going to take this brick to where your first, for the ladies, like where your bra strap is, for the men, where the very tips of your shoulder blades are. And then from here, you're going to keep your knees bent and you're going to lie your head back and open your arms out so that you can use your arms as well to open up through your chest. And you're just going to stay here. I would suggest that you pause the video because I don't want to spend absolutely loads of time here because then we don't get time to do as many other things. Pause the video, stay for maybe 2 or 3, 4 minutes in this pose, and then in that time it may be that you can increase the height of this brick. Just watch what happens in your neck though, because you don't want to be bothering your neck. And lay your head back so that, about halfway through, and it might be that you just put your blanket over the brick so that if you've managed to feel quite comfortable in that version with the lowest level of the brick, that you just increase that a little bit more. Okay, and then your second one, you're going to move the brick a little bit further down, so it's not going to be in your lower back, it's going to be just where that curve of your lower back begins. And maybe start off on the middle level, and if that proves to be too much, then go into the lower level. And then you're going to take your head back and you're going to hold opposite elbows and let your arms drop back. So your arms are probably not going to touch the floor, but you're going to stay here for, again, maybe 2, 3, 4 minutes. And I've had people comment in the past that using the bricks like this sort of feels as though they're bruising their ribs, which I get that, because these type of bricks, they are quite firm. So if that's the case, then use something to soften it, to soften the feeling of it. Now, I'm sure you can hear from my voice that, like, for me, this is a really tight area of my spine, and I think that comes from so many years when I had scoliosis. of the spine. It's still quite a tight area for me. So I would tend to stay here for as long as I felt that I could spend here and still be able to do the rest of my practice. And then once you've spent a little bit of time in those poses, and I'm just going to set the blanket to one side and come into a supported bridge. So I just mentioned before that this pose is sometimes called dancer's bridge, and this kind of shape that we're making with the bricks. So now taking the bricks or brick underneath the sacrum, and I like to have it higher here. I can take it higher here. So I'm going to stack both bricks, one on top of the other. I could just go to the higher level of the brick, but it's because it's a smaller surface area, it just tends to feel a bit unstable, and then I can't relax into it the same. So again, and some people like to straighten their legs so that you start at this stage to open up the front of their hips as well. And so you can take that version as well because you've had your legs bent for the other two. And just relaxing into that. Maybe closing your eyes. So each of these three poses you can use as part of what we would normally take as your invocation at the beginning, where you're thinking about relaxing and being really passive and being really still, and starting to focus more and more on your breath and moving everything from the external and from your physical body more inwards, so that you start to be able to tap into your energetic body, ready for when we start to move more as well. So again, just take it as long as you got to be here. And then when you're ready to come out, bending your knees and lifting your hips up and rolling over. And I just wanted to say, hopefully you might have had a little watch first, but when you've got the bricks underneath your ribs and underneath your upper back, when you come out, I've got enough strength to lift myself up and then come out. But if not, and if you feel as though that might tweak your neck or anything, then just roll to the side and get your bricks and reposition them. So I just wanted to add that in. Hopefully it's not too late for me to say that. And then from here, you're going to come into an all fours position. So, like we've been doing in all of the upper body strength work, start to get your arms strong, starting with your hands. So from here, you're going to spread your fingers wide, but we're going to start, for this one, to take your index fingers, your pointer fingers for facing forwards, rather than your middle fingers, and you'll see why afterwards. And then lowering down onto your third knuckle, stretching out your fingers first, and stretching out the front of your palm, and then lowering the heels of your hands down to the floor. And then from here, a few rounds of cat and cow. So limbering up the spine, inhale, draw your chest, your gaze forwards. What I want you to practice is still having a little bit of core engagement here, because this is the sort of position you're in the pose. And then exhale, really get the core going. So round your lower back especially here. And then as you come into this version, think about lengthening your tailbone and using your core and seeing if you can move the back bend into the upper part of your back, middle and upper part. And then exhale round. So you can do more of these. And exhale. And this makes your last one, unless you're carrying on. And then come to a neutral spine. So from here, stretching your right foot back and keeping on the left shin and the top of the left foot. And then like we did in Vashisthasana, side plank, you're just going to slide this hand forwards, this left hand, because that's the one you're going to be balancing on. And then you're going to open up. So this is kind of where you start that feeling of opening up your chest. You're lifting out of this bottom hand, you're reaching your top arm up and back, and you're lifting everything up. And then from here, you can kick this left foot back a little bit for support. You're going to pick up this right leg and you're going to reach back for your right foot and you're going to pull. You're going to try and keep your knee at hip height. So you're not trying to lift the leg up higher. What you're trying to do is push your foot into your hand and make it a back bend. And imagine that you could take the back of your head back as though you could touch this foot with your head. And then slowly release. And bring this right hand down. So set your hand up just like you did before. And then you're going to stretch your left leg back. Start to transfer the weight into this right hand. And then from here, pick up your left arm. And then start to press your hips forwards. Start to open up your chest and roll this left arm back and lift your chest. Press your hips forwards. So this is the expansive part of it. And then if you need to kick this foot back, just a little bit for support, and then lift that left leg up and reach back for your left foot. So you get the top of your foot, and then you're not trying to lift this knee up any higher. You're going to push your knee back and press your pelvis forwards, and then take your head back, and imagine you could touch the back of your head to your foot. And then slowly release. Bring that hand down. And this hand down. And then from here, you're going to come all the way down onto your belly. Okay. And we're going to start off just by strengthening the back body. And then we're going to do some more stretches so that your back bending is progressive. So you're trying to, every pose we do at this stage has got a back bend to it, so that we're gradually building that ability to bend deeply into the spine in that way. So from here, your head's going to come down. Just take my glasses off. I'm going to reach your arms back and then push your feet into the floor. So we're going to practice really working the legs, because you're going to need to do that in that pose. So you want to really work the back of the legs. So you're going to push your feet into the floor and lift the backs of your legs up. And then where your sit bones are here, you're going to squeeze. So activating the lower part of your glutes, which will push your pelvis into the floor, which is what you want to do. You want to press your pelvis forwards. You're reaching your hands back and you're rolling your shoulders back. And then inhale, lift. And then you're just going to do these little pulses that we've been doing in the other practices. So if you can keep some core engagement. So you exhale, lower down a little bit, lift, and then inhale, lift. Keeping your feet pressing into the floor and seeing if you can feel what parts of your back are working and are nice and engaged, and what parts maybe you don't feel quite as strong, and you're going to try and engage more around those parts of your back. So again, you can do a few more. 3, 2, and 1. And then I'm going to bring my forearms down so that I'm in Sphinx pose. And I'm going to pull back with my hands, keep my legs engaged, and draw my chest forwards, but keep a little bit of core engagement. Just take another breath here. And then you're going to slide your hands down and bring them to the side of your ribs for a cobra pose. So cobra pose, you're hugging your elbows in, you don't want to let your elbows splay out. You're pulling your elbows back, so you're sliding your shoulder blades down your back. And then you're keeping your legs really engaged, so it's exactly the same alignment. And you're using a bit of core engagement as well. And on the inhale, pressing yourself up, and on the exhale, down. And then coming onto your fingertips, so you're just going to lift a little bit higher. So coming up on the inhale, keeping all of that engagement, and exhale, back down. Taking your fingers a little bit wider. Inhale, same engagement. And exhale down. If you want a little bit more, you can bring your feet a little bit closer together. So you inhale, come up, really squeeze, and lower down. And then from here, taking your hands further back so that you're trying to make a right angle with your arms, keeping your everything the same as before. As you inhale, you're going to lift so it'll be a little bit higher, and then slowly come down. So I'm going to come into upward facing dog. So you can just do another one of those really nice high cobras, or you can have a go at downward dog. So downward dog, everything will be the same, but your pelvis will be off the floor. Feet will be still on the floor, but your pelvis will be off the floor. So you're coming up and you're going to lift. And you're pulling your chest forwards. Just right hand back a bit. Okay. And then come back onto your knees. Walk your hands forward. So give your hands a little bit of a break. Keep your hips stacked over your knees for heart melting pose. You're going to start to lift your sit bones up, but your arms are still active, and you're hugging your arms in towards one another, and you're drawing either your forehead down to the floor, or maybe you can start to lower your chin. And then staying here for a good few breaths, and maybe you can slowly start to think about softening your chest down towards the floor. Think about keeping a little bit of core engagement. And then lifting up, and you're going to walk your hands back a little bit, not all the way underneath your shoulders, because we're going to come up into downward facing dog. So from downward, so you're going to lift your hips up, press your legs straight, hug your arms in, so you've still got all that same alignment with your arms. So you're wrapping your triceps back, rolling your biceps in, and hugging your arms in towards one another, and gripping with the pads of your fingers and straightening through your legs. And then from here, you're going to just do some little pulses back through your chest, as if you're trying to get your chest to reach your thighs. So there's tons of stuff you can do from down dog, but this movement really helps with what we're going to be doing. And then you can also add in maybe some cat and cows. So this would be your inhale, you're lifting your sit bones up, drawing your chest back. And then your exhale, pull your tailbone down, heels down, chin in, round. Inhale. And exhale, rounding in. One more, inhale. And exhale, rounding in. And then we're going to combine, so we're going to come from downward dog, we're going to roll forwards. So you're in a high plank, really rounding through your spine, pushing the floor away. And then we're going to do the opposite. So I've got my core really engaged. I'm going to keep my core engaged, and I'm going to float forwards into this, well, it's a version of upward dog, because I've got my toes tucked under in this one. And then I'm going to use my core strength and my back body strength, so like we did when we were doing those little pulses, to lift myself back up to downward facing dog. So we're going to float through that twice more. So I'm going to lift my heels really high, round, 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 come into a high plank, use the legs. Inhale. And then exhale, back body, core strength, pulling me back to my downward facing dog. And then one more, inhale, rolling forwards, push the heels back, draw the chest forwards in your upward facing dog, and then back to downward facing dog. And then from here, I'm going to take my left forearm down to the floor. I'm going to come up high onto my left toes, and I'm going to lift my right arm, please don't do that, leg up, and bend my knee, and maybe even come onto my fingertips of this right hand. So this is the kind of movement that you're going to do to come into your dancer's bridge. So from here, you can lower your knees back down, or see if you can keep that right leg lifted, press yourself back up to your downward dog and roll this hip open from here. So you're going to inhale here and then exhale, knee to nose. Really, really round in. And then step this right foot forwards. Slowly lower your left knee down and tuck your toes. And then hugging your inner thighs in towards one another, reach your arms up. So we're going to use Kali Mudra or Sapana Mudra. So your pointer fingers are stretching out, but the rest of your fingers are clasped and you're crossing your thumbs. And then from here, think about finding a little bit of a back bend here. So I'm trying to pull my arms back so I can lift my chest up. I'm still trying to find that little bit of core engagement. So big breath in here. And then as you exhale, reach your arms out and back. Find that same mudra. And then inhale, lift your chest, reach your arms down. And like we did in cat and cow, can you think about keeping your tail long, but lifting into your upper back and then laying back. So you're trying to find a little bit of a back bend here as well. Take one more big breath in. And as you exhale, bring your fingers to the floor. Tuck your left toes under and inhale, step forwards. Hands can be on your shins or to the floor. Lift your sit bones up, lift your gaze. As you inhale, as you exhale, bend your knees as you need to, folding in. And then push your feet into the floor. Inhale, come all the way up. And exhale, pull down through your core as well as you bring your hands down. Inhale, reach your arms up. And exhale, forward fold, all the way down. Halfway lift, big breath in. And then exhale, plant your hands, step back to your plank pose. So from your plank pose, inhale into your up dog. And exhale, downward facing dog. So second side, you're going to lower your right forearm to the floor. Be on your left hand, lift high onto your right toes. We'll lift this left leg up, bend your knee. Now start to roll your hip open. Maybe come onto these left fingertips. You can point your toes or you can flex your foot, whichever feels okay for you. And then look down and see if you can keep that left leg lifted. Use it to help you lift up. Press back into your downward facing dog. And then roll that hip open again. So maybe you're even looking underneath this left arm. And then as you exhale, knee to nose, really round in, find that core engagement. And then step your left foot forwards. Lower your right knee down. And same as we did before, inhale. Reach your arms up, find your mudra. Hug your inner thighs in towards one another. And then slowly drop your hips and find the back bend. So keep lengthening your tailbone down, pulling your arms back, lifting your upper back. And then exhale, opening your arms out and down. And then finding the same mudra, shoulders back, straightening your arms. And then dropping back in, but keep that core engagement, keep scissoring your inner thighs towards one another. And then lift your chest and see if you can find the back bend in your upper back. So it's like you're using your pointer fingers and you're sliding them down this right leg. Big breath in and then exhale, hands down. So from here, you're going to inhale, step your right foot forwards, halfway lift, exhale, fold in, bow down. And then sorry, just need to check. You're going to inhale, come all the way up to stand, and exhale, hands to your heart. Inhale, reach back up. Maybe you can find your mudra, really use the backs of your legs, a little bit of a back bend, and then exhale, fall forwards. Inhale, halfway lift, and then exhale, step back to your plank pose. So pause for a moment in plank pose. And then inhale into your upward facing dog. And exhale, downward facing dog. So you can have a little watch now, but we're going to come into our peak pose and I'm just going to talk you through it. So you're going to lift your right leg up, bend your knee and open up through your hip. Okay. Come onto your right fingertips. And then from here, pick up your left heel. And you're going to get really nice and high on this left heel. And then you're going to spin this left foot. You're going to keep your hips lifted as high as you can and bring your right foot behind you. And then see if you can straighten your left leg, so you're on the little toe side of your foot. Push the ball of your right foot into the floor. Now you're lifting your hips, you're lifting your chest. You can bring your index finger and thumb together, and it's really, really expressive, can you see? And then I'm going to bend this left knee slightly. Now I'm going to engage my core more, and I'm going to pull my right knee in towards my chest. And then slowly, slowly step that right foot forwards. Okay. And then from here, I'm going to stand into this right leg. And I'm going to pick up into half moon pose. So we did this when we were doing our standing balances. So you're going to push into that left heel. Roll your hips open. Maybe pick up this left hand, really work that standing leg, maybe look to the left, and then maybe, like we did when we were on all fours, you can bend this top leg, find your foot, and just like we did, keep the knee low, but you're pulling that foot back and thinking about maybe bringing your head towards that foot. And then slowly release the foot, and you're going to step back, lower that left knee down, inhale, reach your arms up, and exhale, plant your hands, inhale, step back, plank pose, come up into your up dog, and exhale, down dog. Okay, so you're going to do that pose now on the other side, and then just add it into that little flow. So when you're ready, you're going to inhale, lift your left leg, bend your knee and roll your hip open. Really kick your heel in towards your sit bone, and then come onto your left fingertips and lift up your right heel as high as you can. So you're going to start to drop this foot back, but as you do, I want you to think about keeping your hips as high as you can. So you're going to start to spin on this right foot. So you're on the little toe side of your foot. Keep your hips nice and high, and then bring this left foot behind you. The higher you get your foot, but it starts to drop your hips down if you've not got the opening to do that. And then from there, everything's going to lift. And you're trying to straighten this right leg, but it doesn't matter if you don't get that leg straight. But this back foot, you're lifting. Everything's lifting up. And then, stay for a while, bend this right knee, and then start to use your core more, pull this left leg in, and then slowly pivot on your right foot and step this left foot forward. So from here, you're going to step into your half moon pose on this side. So reaching your fingertips forwards so that underneath your shoulder as you come up, really press back with this right leg and start to stack your hips, stack your shoulders. And then you can stay here, or you can bend this top leg and reach for your foot. And just like you did on the other side, you're keeping your knee level with your hip. But then you're going to start to push your foot back into your hand, press your hips forwards, And maybe even take your head back as if you could bring the back of your head to touch your foot. And then slowly release that right foot and float that foot back and lower your right knee down. Come off this wrist. Inhale. Reach your arms up. Find your mudra. And then exhale. Hands down. Inhale. Step back to your plank pose. Come into your upward facing dog. Exhale. Knees down. And you're going to sit back on your heels. No, you're not. You're going to sit on your knees, stand on your knees. And you can walk forwards a little bit. You're going to curl your toes under and then sit back on your heels. Okay, so sorry about any confusion. Tuck your little toes under. I'm just going to be a little bit careful with my little toe because I decided to join in with my little boys' martial arts class yesterday morning. And I caught my toe on the mats that they have down and it's quite sore. So from here, I'm going to bring my left hand onto my left heel. And as I inhale, I'm going to pick my hips up. So just one more back bend, little flow. And then exhale back down. Right hand, right hip, inhale. So really lift the chest, really push the pelvis forwards. Exhale, inhale. And exhale, inhale. So again, you can do this as many times as you like. I'm just going to do one more. And then from here, I'm going to hold both heels. Press my chest forwards. I'm just going to widen my stance a little bit. So both hands down. And then I'm hugging my inner heels together and lifting my chest, pushing my hips forwards. So camel pose or Ustrasana. One last back bend. And inhale, come up. And you can repeat that. Or you can have untuck your toes so you can come into a slightly deeper back bend. So taking your hands onto your sacrum and starting that, so really engage the backs of the legs, really engage around your sit bones, start to push your pelvis forwards, start to lift your chest up, and then maybe you can take your hands back to find your heels, and same thing. And then inhale, come up, and exhale. Sit back. So from here, just make sure, again, all these things are, So from here, just roll over. We're going to release the spine. So we've done all that work, bringing the vertebrae closer together in the spine. So you could use a strap for this, but I'm presuming, with it being intermediate, that you're going to be able to get hold of your leg somewhere to stretch out your hamstring. Your hamstrings on this right leg. So squaring off your hips and just feeling your lower back unravel, feeling your shoulders start to drop to the floor. And if you're able to straighten this left leg, you can straighten that left leg. And take it gradually. You don't need to rush into your, trying to get hold of your foot or anything like that. If it happens, it happens. Feel your heart rate. So back bends are very exhilarating, very energetic, uplifting poses. So you'll probably find that you're kind of buzzing with energy and your heart rate's up a little bit. So just allow everything to start to settle back down. If you can slide your hands a little bit further up, you can do that. Some of you maybe can get hold of your big toe. So just closing down the front of the body. I know we have been using core engagement, but It's not quite the same as when we do, full-on core work. So you're going to take a big breath in, keep holding onto this right leg somewhere, and then as you exhale, push your lower back into the floor and draw your head up towards this leg. So you're pulling the leg down and lifting your head up, or your chest up, so that you get a little bit of core work going on here before you finish. And then slowly lower down, bring that right knee in towards your chest. Shift your hips across to the right and then roll to the left and come into a twist. So releasing the spine from the back bending with the twist. Softening this right shoulder down towards the floor. Keep rolling that right hip away. You can slide something underneath this right knee if you need it, or underneath this right hand. So you don't only need to do that if this right arm wouldn't touch the floor. And then slowly roll back. And then switching sides. So take the left leg up. Square off your hips. Start to let this back of this left leg open. So you've been really contracting the backs of the legs to help you in the back bend. So really we're kind of stretching the whole of the back body now as a counter pose. So that's why there's a little bit of core work here, because to stretch the back, you have to engage the front of the belly, the belly. You have to engage the front of the torso to stretch out the back a little bit. And then maybe you can slide this right leg straight. Relax your shoulders. Maybe you can slide your hands a little bit further down. Maybe you can hold your big toe. Breathe and enjoy the stretch. I always encourage people to close their eyes when they do, especially hamstring work, because you can get really attached to how close your leg comes to you, and it isn't about that at all. It's not about the depth. It's about the sensation. It's what can you feel, and it's an observation. How do you respond to what you can feel? Can you relax into it, but still keep the engagement where you need it? So you've got that balance. So yoga is not just about physically balancing your strength and your flexibility. It's also about mentally and energetically balancing the ease with the effort in every single pose. So taking a big breath in, and as you exhale, just picking up your head and shoulders and drawing your leg and your chest towards one another. So I'm pushing my lower back into the floor, pulling my ribs down and lower ribs down, lifting my pelvic points up, and you see as I do that, I get that little extra lift even. So that's where your core engagement is going to come from. And then slowly lower down, draw your left knee towards your chest, shift your hips over to the left, and then drop all the way over to the right, and stretch this left arm out to the left. A few more breaths here. And then rolling back. So for our last pose before Shavasana, we're going to do an inversion that will stretch the whole of the back of the body. So if you really don't like Halasana plow pose, you can just sit yourself up and take a forward fold. If you have any neck issues, you can bring your blanket with a folded edge towards the top edge of your mat, or the back edge of your back of your mat, and then you can lie back so that your shoulders are on it but your head isn't, so that it gives you some support in your neck. Make sure what's behind me. Ponytails are not the best pose to hairstyle to have. And then you're going to take your legs up and then get a little bit of momentum, rock back. So use your hands to support you and then start to lower your feet towards the floor. Lift your chin so you're not overstretching your cervical spine, and you're lifting. So it's a back body stretch. So I'm slightly engaging the front of my legs. I'm using my core. And you're quite welcome to come into shoulder stand or any other inversion, but this is quite passive. And again, you can stay for as long as you need to stay. And then when you're ready to come out, use your hands. Now start to really use your core, and if your head wants to lift away from the floor, let it lift away from the floor so you don't do anything weird with your neck. And then you're going to slowly come down. So if you use the blanket, just going to remove the blanket, and you're going to come into your Shavasana. So you might want to just keep your knees bent, especially if back bending, like it is for me, is quite challenging. Forward bending is twisting. A lot of things for me are easier than back bending. So that's why you need to do those things that you don't find as easy. Those are the things you need to do. So you can keep your knees bent. Just if you need your spine, your lower back to unravel a little bit, if there's any tension there. And then once everything feels okay, you can slide your feet out and come into your classic Shavasana. And when you've been doing all those back bends, sometimes it's quite nice to use a brick and just place a brick over your belly, and it just gives that sense of grounding down for me. So my palms are rolled open, my feet are falling open. Everything is really receptive. So it's like you're finding that openness and that receptiveness that you were looking for in your peak pose, but now you're using it in your relaxation. So you're letting yourself feel all the forces of gravity to drop you down, letting your brick exaggerate that sense of groundedness and supportiveness, but you're still keeping the front of your body open and receptive. And this is where, in this last pose, that it's quite tempting for people to skip this pose or have a very, very short Shavasana. But this is when the healing takes place. Whatever you've created in your body, whatever's shifted, this is when all the magic happens. So don't skip it, even if it's only a minute or 2 minutes to stay. And if you've got longer than that, then the longer you've got, the more benefit you're going to get. And when you're done, just set your brick to the side and just wriggling out, maybe rolling your ankles and your wrists, and then big stretch. Drawing these in. I always put you on at that point and roll to your side. Just take a couple of breaths there. And then when you're ready, pressing yourself up to a seat. So, thank you, as always, for watching. I hope that my instructions to help you get into this pose, Camatkarasana, were helpful. and that you enjoy practicing it as much as I enjoyed teaching it and guiding you through it. So thank you again, and I'll see you on the next video.